Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Triangle BNI. My name is Mike Manning, and each week we bring you a small business success story from BNI. If you are not familiar with BNI, it's Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. Our little slice of heaven here in the middle part of North Carolina, we call the Triangle. It's Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill. We've got 30 chapters now, going strong each week, 6 chapters trying to become full chapters, and about 600 members. So if you go to trianglebni.com in the upper right-hand corner, you will see a pull down says find a chapter. Click on that. You can go look around the entire Triangle area, find the day and the time and the location you want. Please come visit. You'll meet some wonderful people, and each week we bring you these success stories. And our guest this week, Dr. Dana Brindisi with Carolina Functional Neurology Center. Welcome, Dana. Glad to have you.
Thank you for having me.
So she is a functional neurologist. We will get into that. We love firsts on the show. So you are the first neurologist and first functional neurologist.
Great.
And we'll get into that and the depth of things you do to help people, which we will talk about. We are late May, early June, right around there. So how's business going so far this year? You went out on your own last year.
Yes,
So
opened in October.
how are things going?
Things are going really great. Yeah, they have been slowly picking up, so
Mhm.
not too quickly, but not too slowly. Just working on getting the word out there. A lot of people don't know what functional neurology is,
Mhm.
but more and more people are actually looking for functional neurology. So that's been a really interesting thing that I've found over the last few months that people are searching for that
Yeah.
specifically and finding us, which is
And
really
as I
cool.
found out during the research, there's a ton of keywords to get to that, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. So how many on staff right now for you?
One,
One? Okay. We
I'm
like
getting
that.
ready to hire somebody
All right.
in June.
Okay. Office
So
help or another
office
medical?
help.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Front desk, patient coordinator
All right. That's a good
position.
sign.
It is a good sign.
So let's back up and talk about that move to going out on your own, which is scary and exhilarating at the same time.
Yes.
But you were ready to do that, right?
Yes.
So talk about how and when the timing and why and how you came about to do it then and kind of what the transition was like.
I think that I've always wanted to own my own business. I come from a family of business owners, so it's always been in the back of my mind that I wanted to do something like that. So I was an employee for 5 years in Portland, Maine, and worked and lived up there and worked in a functional neurology practice. And then my family started migrating down this way to North Carolina. And so I took the plunge and made the move. And I was fortunate enough to work with somebody else that did similar work to myself when I got down here as a transition. Um, and we had a year contract, and we kind of collectively made the decision that it was a good time for me to do my thing. And so that was in about July, August of last year. And I opened my doors in October.
So let's talk best and worst of being a small business owner. What's the best part of
I get to do what I want to do when I
it?
want to do it.
Exactly. What's the toughest part of it that you found, or maybe the hardest thing to deal with right now in the growing pains?
Um, I mean, I think just you do everything,
Yeah.
right? So, and especially coming from the medical side of things, I'm the doctor and working with patients. I'm also the janitor. I'm also the front desk person. I'm also the person that's ordering the supplements and doing all that kind of stuff. So, um, just, I never realized what this meant or how true it was until
Mhm.
I got older. But sometimes there's just not enough hours in the day
Yeah.
to do all the things. So you gotta really prioritize like what is the most important thing, and if you can't get to all of it, what can be done the next day or the next week or whatever.
Are you still in that stage where you do the books and the paperwork at night?
Um, some of it, yes. So some of it I'll get done, as I'm going through patients during the day, and some of the things like making phone calls for patient consultations are usually earlier in the morning or at the end of the day when I'm done.
Okay.
So it just kind of depends on the task.
You sleeping okay through all this transition?
I
Are
am.
you?
I am. It's, in the last, I would say probably month or two, I think I've gotten myself into a groove. So I feel
Okay.
much more calm and getting it done without being as stressed.
Well, good.
So,
Okay. No names, but do you remember the feeling you had when the first patient walked into your place the first time for you to treat?
oh my gosh. No.
Okay.
It was such a transition period from about July or August until the doors opened in
Mhm.
October, and I was, working out of a friend's office for part of the time, and so I think really I just was in a fog a little bit, so,
Fair enough.
man, I wish I did have that, but no, I don't really remember, um, that
You're in
particular
full business
moment.
mode.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
guess I
All
was
right.
just get it
Nothing,
done.
nothing wrong with that. If you have never been to a BNI meeting, each week there's a featured speaker. And depending on the size of the group, it's either a 5 minute talk, a 6 minute talk, or a 10 minute talk. And each week that speaker is introduced by the member bio sheet. So, Dr. Dana, this is how we do it here. So, this
Great.
is how we're going to officially introduce you.
Okay.
Dr. Dana Brindisi with Carolina Functional Neurology Center. You are a functional neurologist, but that's the actual profession is
Mhm.
what you are, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Location and months in business.
Whatever October is,
Okay.
7
All
months.
right.
Our location is 6511 Creedmoor Road.
What's the crossroad there on Creedmoor?
Creedmoor and Lynn Road.
Okay.
We're
All right.
just north of Lynn Road on Creedmoor.
Okay. Okay.
It's like
Not
a
where the
business
strip center
park.
is. Yeah, the business park right there.
Yep.
Okay.
Long
All right.
brick building.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay. Previous types of jobs. Now, hang on a sec. No. I have all the ones after college written down.
Yes.
I want that high school story, that memorable
Yes.
high school story or early into your college career story.
Okay.
That's what we like talking about.
Okay. I was a server, a bus girl, a hostess for basically all throughout college. My first job was when I was 15 and I was a bus girl at a restaurant. I did that until I went to grad school,
Mhm.
basically. That was great. I think everybody should serve or work in a restaurant at some point in their life. You learn so many life skills and just how to time manage and prioritize and do all of those things at a young age. So
And put
I
up
love
with
doing it.
customer interaction, some good, some bad.
Yeah.
We've actually talked about this on the show with people because a lot of us had that high school job.
Yeah.
But you're right, it
Yes.
does
I,
teach you when to throw the filter on and when not to, right?
for sure. Yes, absolutely. And then I was a lifeguard for a long time.
Okay. This was
Um,
up in Maine, high
this
school
was in
job?
Buffalo, New York.
Buffalo, okay, right,
Yeah.
where it's cold
It's cold.
and windy and
That's why
snowy
I'm
and
here in North
icy.
Carolina.
Okay. Your first job in high school was what you worked at the
I was a
restaurant?
bus girl. Yes.
Okay. What'd you make back then, you remember? Okay.
No.
But you thought you were killing it with money,
Actually,
right?
I take that back. As a lifeguard, I made $10 an hour, and I
Really?
was rolling in the dough
Oh, yeah.
as I think I was a senior going into college.
Oh, yeah, for the whole summer?
Yeah,
Oh, good
we were
money.
like cream of the crop as lifeguards in terms of that. And then I actually, gosh, I forgot. I worked at a ice cream slash roast beef sandwich shop on Grand Island. So in
The
Western New York,
the
Beefs on
same
Weck.
place, ice cream and roast beef.
Yes,
That's new. Okay,
yes.
alright.
It was great. We were slammed all summer, worked with all my girlfriends.
Yeah.
We had a blast. It was very fun.
Which were you better at, making the roast beef sandwich or scooping the ice cream?
I enjoyed making the roast beef sandwich with,
Okay.
like, the big slicer. I don't know if I was good at it or not, but I didn't cook the roast beef, so, you know, slices were fine, I guess.
Roast beef and ice cream. Okay, I don't usually see
I
those
mean, it's a
together.
good combo, though,
It
like, you eat your roast beef on a Kimmelink roll, and it's
Yeah.
salty and stuff, and you get your french fries, and then you come back and get your sweet ice cream.
Can you confirm that? That it was on my rep? Yeah.
I cannot.
Everything you want, so next part of the bio intro is personal information. So your family's they still up north? You the only one down here?
No, my mom, my stepdad, 2 of my aunts, and my sister are all in North Carolina somewhere. Um, they're not in Raleigh, that's why I say
Okay,
somewhere.
somewhere. Okay,
Um,
thought you'd lost track of them.
no, I know where they are. My dad, stepmom, and 2 of my step siblings are still in Buffalo,
All right.
and my brother and his wife are in Manhattan.
Okay. All right. So who got you down? Who or what or why got you down to Raleigh?
I went to grad school in Florida.
Mhm.
And so being
We're
from
gonna talk about that,
Buffalo,
yes.
New York,
Okay.
once I lived in Florida in that nice warm weather and
Mhm.
on the beach, I never
Mhm.
really had any intention of going back up north. But I did my internship at the practice that I worked at in Portland, Maine,
Okay.
and they offered me a job and I couldn't turn it down. And so I moved back up north and I ended up being there for 5 years. So I always kind of had in the back of my mind, I wanted to come back down south.
Okay.
I didn't want to get stuck in the cold.
Yeah. So you went halfway. Went instead of all the way back down to Florida, you figured North Carolina is good
Yes.
enough.
Yes. And then my parents were kind of transitioning and they were looking between here and Tennessee.
Yeah.
And so,
Okay.
yeah,
When you moved down here, what job did you move for?
I was doing what I do now as an independent contractor in somebody else's practice.
Okay. How'd you find that?
Um, we have a small network of people who
Okay.
do functional neurology.
Yeah.
So I had known the doctor beforehand.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yep.
All right. And
So
you like it here?
I do.
Gonna hang around for a while?
I am.
Oh, good. Glad to hear it.
Yeah.
Animals?
I have a chocolate lab named
Mhm.
Kava.
Where'd the name come from?
That's I did a clinic abroad in Fiji when I was on my way to graduating from grad school,
Wow.
and I spent 17 days there. 10 of them were treatment days. So we worked with a lot of kids and families. And then when you go to an individual village, in Fiji, they do what's called a kava ceremony. So the chief of the village welcomes you, and it's a ceremony. So
Oh,
it's a big
wow.
production, and they mix. So not to be confused with the sparkling wine, it's Kava. So it's
Okay.
the root of a plant, and they mix it with water, and they put it in this big bowl, and so they pour water out of a bamboo shoot and mix up the kava. Doesn't look good. It kinda tastes like muddy water,
Yeah.
but it's their drink,
All right.
basically.
And you had
Um,
to drink it at least at the
you have
ceremony,
to. It's
right? Yeah.
very disrespectful not
Oh,
to
yeah.
drink
Yeah.
it. So then you scoop it out like of a little half coconut shell,
Okay.
and you just pass it around. Everyone sits in a circle, and they welcome you into their
What
community.
purpose
So,
does the water? Is it health? It's supposed to be healthy water, something like that, do you know?
mm, no, it's supposed to be calming,
Okay.
but they actually say if you drink enough that it can almost have some cognitive hallucinogenic
No.
effects on you.
Eh?
I didn't experience it while I was there. I don't
Okay.
know anybody that did. That's what they say,
It's
but
their
who
Friday nights
knows?
there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Hobbies and activities of interest.
Really anything sports related. I was a gymnast my whole life, so I love that. I play recreational volleyball.
Okay.
Um, yeah,
Bills fan,
like,
Sabres fan.
yes.
Where do you fall? Where do Buffalonians fall in on baseball? Yankees, Mets, neither. Blue
Uh,
Jays. Actually closer to Toronto, aren't you?
my nana was a Braves fan, but I don't really watch baseball,
Okay.
so sorry to
Okay.
I don't.
But Bills and Sabres at least, right?
Yeah, a big
Okay.
Sabres fan.
Right. I know when there's 2 teams when they come to town,
Mhm,
their fan bases are huge. One is the Steelers,
mhm.
and there must be 10 or 12 bars on Sundays that just for Steeler fans. And then for hockey, well, Steelers don't actually come to town here, but on Sundays. But for hockey, it's the Sabres.
Sabres.
When the Sabres come to play the Hurricanes, that's as big a traveling or local fan base from Buffalo that
Yes.
fills up that arena.
Yeah, there's a ton of people from
Oh yeah.
Western New York
Oh
here.
yeah. Yep.
Um, I had the opportunity to go to the last Sabres-Canes game, which was really fun. There was a ton of Buffalo
Oh, yes.
fans.
My
So,
son went about 3 years ago, and he was amazed. It almost
yep,
looked like a half and half. That was when the Hurricanes weren't as good.
yeah,
So there, obviously seats available, but he was just amazed at the number of people, Buffalo fans.
yeah,
So
and
that
I
yeah.
will say, if they're not playing the Sabres, I will root for the
Okay, fair enough. All right, we got that. City of residence and how long?
Raleigh, 2
Okay.
years.
Okay.
Yep,
Your burning desire is to
travel the world.
I like it. I like it. Where's the first place you're gonna go when you go?
I'm hoping to go to Cuba in November.
Ooh, very cool.
But I really am very interested in going to Japan when I have the time
Okay.
to do that. Yeah,
Mm. Bucket list, right?
bucket
All
list
right, I
for
like
sure.
that. You're playing. So this is 2019. So
Mhm.
by 2021, you'll be in Japan.
Fingers
I like
crossed.
it. I like it. Key to your success.
I think just loving what I do. I really enjoy my job. I really enjoy my time with my patients. I think a lot of people always say, if you read any of the testimonials or our reviews, I think that comes out and people are always saying, they love how much I care about them.
Mhm.
Um, and so I think it just helps.
Okay. There are few people watching that are getting to know you. More will know you by the end of the show,
Yeah.
but tell us something no one knows about you.
Mm.
And we've had people fall on their sword here. We had Joe Navarro on one day, and he told us that he got fired from a paper route in high school when he was 16. So we have all
Mm.
kinds of stories what people don't know about you. When you spoke to your chapter last, what did you tell them that they didn't know about you?
Yeah. I have two, I don't know if they're weird things.
We like weird.
Um,
Yeah.
One, I can say the alphabet backwards.
Nice.
And two, I was the first diagnosed case of Lyme disease in New York State, per my mother.
Oh, jeez.
That's what I hear.
Okay. How old were you?
Infant. Yeah.
Wow.
Toddler, maybe.
Okay.
Yep.
Huh. Man, didn't see that one coming.
Yeah.
The alphabet backwards, was this a game when you were
My
kids?
Nana taught me.
Because Nana knew, right? Nana
Yeah.
could do it.
Yep.
How long does it take you, and do you have to look up and stop and think?
I don't have to think.
Okay, very
I can
impressive.
do it. I think I can do it quicker, better than I could do it slower.
Nice. It's not one of
I
those
can't think about it. I just got to
okay,
do
it's
it.
not one of those party tricks where you burp it the whole way through, you actually say it, right? Because that's a
Yeah.
guy version
Yeah.
of
No,
it,
I don't
okay?
do that.
We wouldn't like that, that would not be good, so all right, we're here with Dr. Dana Brindisi, and I guess on the Italian part of it, it'd be Brindisi, or however bad you say it, or I would say it,
Yeah.
but your family quit laughing. He started Amnon started this. So your family's from Italy
My
or
dad's side of
thereabouts?
the family.
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
Yep.
Was your dad born there?
He was not. He
Okay,
was born in Niagara Falls, New York.
okay. So his parents were?
Yes.
Okay. Did you
Yep.
grow up with Italian in your household?
Yes.
Can you speak any Italian?
No.
Can you cook any
Oh,
Italian? Right.
not
Not the
my
cuss words on the soccer field. We're talking about the real words, okay? Because we know
um
international soccer. We get that, yeah.
yeah, no, I wish that I did. My papa didn't never read or wrote English. So he spoke very broken English.
Yeah.
But when he came over, it was kind of shunned to speak your language. And so he was kind of forced to do the
Oh,
best he could
okay.
to speak English. And he and my grandma kind of kept that in the household.
Yeah.
And so, it's kind of unfortunate because even my dad didn't, I mean, he knows a few
Yeah.
things, but he's not even fluent in Italian,
Okay.
which is, I think it's sad, but
So you know 8 or 10 words that you could at least listen for if you okay. All
yeah,
right.
a
All right.
little bit.
All right, Dana is in RD21 Glenwood South Connection. They meet Wednesdays at noon at the Ale
Yes.
House on Glenwood, and you are the vice president of that chapter.
Yes.
So when is literally the first time you ever heard BNI?
I think really when I came down to North Carolina, one of my friends from grad school said, you have to check this out. She did it for her practice and she really encouraged me to join BNI or at least go visit different chapters and see what I thought about it. And then the more research that I did, kind of looked into it, I
Mhm.
realized that a lot of my colleagues were in BNI groups. Um, yeah, that was kind of the first time I really
How'd you find the chapter you're in now?
just visiting. I went and visited several
Mhm.
chapters when I first started. So just looking up on the website when they were
Mhm.
and just showed up.
So you didn't know anybody at the time, you just showed up and visited?
No,
Okay.
yeah.
What was it about that chapter that drew you to them?
I love our chapter. We have great people in there. The energy's good. Um, when I walked in for the first time, they put a lei on me. They're like,
Okay.
this is so that we recognize that you're a guest
Yeah.
and so that all of our members know, come talk to this
I
person.
like that.
Yeah, I'm trying to bring it back. I don't know why. I
I
don't know.
like
I've
that.
said it a couple times. I
Sounds
don't know
like a
why they don't
Coach
do it.
Chris move, right?
It was actually Ben that he
Okay.
was the visitor
Yeah.
host.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, and so it just and a lot of people say this about our group when they visit, but I felt it and why I joined our group.
Mhm.
It was just the energy. Everybody was so welcoming. They seemed like they all got along really well and they were all friends.
Yeah.
So it was kind of an easy choice for me.
And we've had, from your chapter, we've had Coach Chris,
Mm.
we've had Kenny, we've had Sandra, we've had Brian.
Nice.
I know I'm forgetting somebody, so if I am, my apologies. We'll make it right next week. But it is a good group. It's a good mixed group.
Yeah,
Your chapter is different from most because you guys actually have a medical
we
power team,
do.
which is unheard of. So who
Mhm.
else is in your chapter in the medical world that you guys can kind of refer each other to?
Yep, so we have Ben Townsend, who's an acupuncturist. We have Tomasz Cernansky, who is a massage therapist, and he does posture rehabilitation. We have Coach Chris, who's a personal trainer, and then we just welcomed Clint Sellers,
Mhm.
who is a chiropractor, into our group. So
Have
that's
you
5 of us.
how long I'm sure you guys have had numerous conversations about how to help each other because everybody's got
Mhm.
a different piece of getting
Yep.
people back together. Quite a few referrals passed
Mhm.
between you guys?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we do pretty good in that regard.
Functional neurologist. For
Yes.
those of us who have no idea what that is, how would you sum that up in layman's terms?
Okay. Functional neurology is really looking at the intricacies of what's happening in the brain. Most of my patients end up in my office after they've been through the gamut of providers. You know, they've seen the medical neurologist, they've been to the ENT, they've seen the orthopedist, they've gone to the chiropractor, they've done the acupuncture, um, and they're looking for more answers. It's functional in that we do rehabilitation. So we don't do anything with uh,
Mhm.
medications, drugs, or surgery. So we're really looking at the minutia of the nervous system and tweaking it and changing it so that we can optimize people's function. So a lot of times people come, they've had MRIs and all of these different studies that come back normal and they're still having symptoms. And usually they're somewhere in this gray area between health and sickness, or maybe they're really
Mm,
sick, but nothing's coming up on their testing. That's kind of where we come in because a lot of people, health is not just black and white.
right.
And so there's a lot of gray area there that sometimes our current model you don't fit into that.
Yeah.
And so I get all of that outside of the box
Well,
people.
which is good.
Yep.
I know on your website and just reading up about this, some of the keywords, and I did not know. I knew a couple of them just because I had met you and
Yeah.
heard you talk before, but concussions, migraines, dizziness, thyroid, vertigo, and dis how do you
Dysautonomia.
dysautonomia. Thank you.
Yeah.
You saved me. That means a whole lot to a lot of people. So how do we know if we should end up in your office one day? What would we have? What would we need to hear from another doctor?
Um, I mean, hopefully, the other provider knows to send you to me at least for an evaluation. I think that's happening more and more. Um, but like I said, I wish we were the first line of defense for people because I think we can help a lot of people without having them have to go through the gamut.
Yeah.
Um, but I think if you're having persistent neurological symptoms, concussion, vertigo, migraines, and you've done a bunch of stuff and it's not really doing what you want it to do, or if it's helping only minimally,
Okay.
um, that's the majority of people that end up in my office.
And we always on this show, we love to obviously entertain and laugh about stuff, but love to educate people as well because there's so many different people on this show from many different industries
Mhm.
and to educate the people to look for whether it's insurance or I mean all the stuff we've had on the show. So if somebody has a concussion,
Mhm.
a 16-year-old playing football has a concussion Friday night, Monday morning still has
Yes.
headaches or whatever, would you recommend they go to you first? Should they start with their primary care physician? What are some options? Because I know it's not black and white, but what are some
Yeah.
options?
So first scenario would be, if you have any significant symptoms after head injury, go to the emergency room, right?
Mhm.
You want to get checked out. They want to make sure that you don't have a brain bleed or something like that. So, first and foremost, that should be kind of your first line of defense. They'll make sure that there's nothing life threatening happening. After that, uh, people usually go to their primary care or they
Okay.
seek a neurologist. I would love to see people if they got cleared by the emergency room and everything is good. So technically, concussion symptoms should resolve anywhere from 7 to 10, maybe 14 days.
Mhm.
Things should start getting better, if not pretty much going away. If they don't in that time period, that's where you really want to start seeking treatment because there's some reason why your brain isn't recovering from that injury on its own.
And I guess for most of us sports fans, we hear concussion protocol is kind
Mhm.
of the new phrase for athletes that are, taken out or sat for
Yep.
a couple games, stuff like that. And is that just a basic and I go back to NASCAR, I worked at NASCAR years ago, and when they started this, at the beginning of the season, they had all the drivers come in and they get a baseline. And are do most of the I know you've worked with, hockey players and ski jumpers.
Mhm.
Do they are most of these sports going to that, "Okay, let's get a baseline so we know if something happens, it'll be different than what the baseline was?"
Yes, and, the problem we're running into across the board is the majority of that is called an impact test.
Okay.
So they're sitting at a computer and they're doing different, mostly cognitive tasks.
Oh, okay.
The thing with that testing is that if the athletes have done it once, they know how to maybe not do as well on their intake testing so that if they get an
Oh,
injury,
yeah.
the discrepancy is not so great so that they don't get taken out of play.
Sure, that's already been passed along to each yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
and so that's kind of the difficulty of running that type of baseline test. The diagnostic testing that we run, looking at cognitive function, eye movements, balance and coordination, and full bedside exam, there are things that if you have a head injury, you can't fake it till you make it,
Yeah.
right? You can't be bad at certain tasks neurologically that we look at in our clinic. So having those eye movements and balance testing as a baseline, I think would be huge across the board to make sure that people aren't returning to play
Yeah.
when they're not fully recovered because that's where we run into a lot of issues with our athletes is that they don't fully recover from a head injury
Mm.
and then they're in the game and they get another one
Yeah.
and then they're really set back.
And people like you come into play because athletes are not gonna take themselves out of the game. They're just most of them are
Most
not.
of them
It
aren't,
has to be somebody like you
or
that
they don't
says
want to.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's somebody like you that says not cleared, right, and obviously with for good reason.
Yes.
For those of us who did not play sports at a high level,
Yeah.
again, we talk about some of the keywords, migraines and dizziness.
Mhm.
I know plenty of people have migraines, plenty of people.
Yeah.
So what can you do? Sometimes they just lay in their room, in a
Mhm.
dark, quiet room. Sometimes there's medication for it.
Yep.
What kind of things can you do to help that? So if somebody listening has
Yes.
migraines, what would you recommend that they do?
It's a great question. I do want to say first, though, that sports has brought concussion to light for a lot of us.
Yeah.
The majority of people that actually come in for concussion treatment are not people who have had a sports injury.
Oh,
So it's
really?
just
Oh,
people who have fallen, people who have been in a car accident.
yeah.
Those are very, very common
Okay, good to
that we
know.
see in the office. So although the discussion is often around sports, it's kind of a blessing that the sports have brought it to light, even though it's impacting so many people. But I
That
see it a ton in
well, that brings up
non-sports
and we
injuries.
may not know if we kind of fell in the house or whatever, we thought, "Geez," well, back in the
Mhm.
day with me growing up, and he's even older than I am, so I know this happened when he grew up too, is just shake it to get cobwebs or
Yep.
just got your bell rung was the phrase just shake it off and
Yeah.
move on. But if somebody falls, how do we know if we have a concussion if it wasn't sports related, if we just fell or something like
Yeah,
that?
there's nobody there to really tell you
Yeah.
definitively one way or the other. Um, there's a lot of symptoms that can manifest as a
Mhm.
result of a concussion. But if you see changes in your sleep patterns, changes in your mood, changes in your cognition, sensitivity to light and sound, you have nausea and vomiting, you have a persistent headache or a headache that kind of waxes and wanes, but over
Okay.
time it's not going away. Um, those are pretty clear signs that you probably had a concussion. Some people fall and they feel okay for a few days, and
Mhm.
then maybe the next week they don't feel good and they don't really attribute it
Mhm.
to that fall necessarily.
Mhm.
Um, but it's usually a result of that. And some people, I think, don't go because they don't associate those two things. They don't
Right.
go for treatment. But it's very common because the reason why they're having those symptoms is because their brain is inflamed.
Yeah.
right? And it might take a minute for that to be recognized by them. But yeah,
Hmm.
very
Yeah, I hadn't thought
common.
about that. Yeah, yeah. I guess that would make sense if it's a
Mhm.
delayed, I don't want to say delayed reaction or symptoms or whatever,
Mhm.
but I'm sure you see that a
Yep.
lot. Yes.
So you said
Yeah,
migraines.
and dizziness, yeah. So
Migraines,
what
yeah.
yeah, so what should you know if you have migraines, no doubt about that.
Yes.
Dizziness sometimes will, it's just, will make up excuses for dizziness, but with migraines, you
Sure.
can't really you either
Yes.
have them or you don't. So what kind of things should they be doing, or how do you factor into that part of
Mhm.
people's issues?
Um, so again, a lot of these people that end up in my office are people that have had the medication. It's helping minimally or not at all. They've done the chiropractic, they've done the acupuncture, they get massages regularly.
Mhm,
They've done physical therapy, and they're still having symptoms. Those are the people that end up in my office, and rightfully so, because migraines are at their core a neurological issue. So a lot of us know that migraines affect the blood vessels in our brain, but it's not really the blood vessel itself. It's the way that our nerves control the blood vessels. So we see, you mentioned dysautonomia earlier. We see a lot of dysautonomias at at the foundation of what's contributing to people's migraines.
hmm, okay,
And then, we take a holistic approach. So we're also looking at their biomechanics, we're looking at their nutrition, and we're looking at their hormone levels, and we're looking at their neurology.
hmm,
And those four things usually are all contributing factors, and so oftentimes people will work on one of them and not address the other three and think that that's not their problem. So, for example, they go to the chiropractor, they get an adjustment. The chiropractor says, "Oh, you have issues with your cervical spine. We're going to do some adjustments on you. This should help your migraines," and it doesn't help. Well, it doesn't mean that it's not because they don't have issues in their cervical
mhm.
spine. It means that they probably have that and one of these other 3 things, if not multiple of these other 3 things that are also contributing to their migraines.
Now I go to a chiropractor, so I know what, Ashley does for me,
Mhm.
and I tell the story. I have lower back pains and have had that for 10 years and was
Yep.
finally smart enough to go see somebody about it, but that's another story. And one day she was working up around my shoulder. She's kinda working her way up, just feeling around for things and stuff
Yeah.
like that. I'm like, "Ashley, there's my neck and shoulders are fine." She goes, "Give me a minute." And so she gets up there playing around. It was on the left side, and as soon as she hit it, I felt it. I did not feel anything till she hit that. It's like, "Oh,
Mhm.
wait, wait, right there." She goes, "Yeah, hang on a sec." Played a little bit longer with it, and all of a sudden, huh, lower back's feeling much better. I had no
Yes.
idea things were connected. Now, I know what she does for me from
Mhm.
a chiropractor because she's got a little poke thing and she does all that.
Yeah.
When they come to you, what kind of things do you do for people that are explainable? Because, like I said, chiropractor is easy to explain. They,
Mhm.
do this, do that. So, okay, when people come to see you, what kind of things can you do for them? Like with migraines, if they've been through the gamut of everybody.
Yes. So, our treatment, there are a lot of modalities that we use in order to influence somebody's brain function. So we do everything from eye movement therapy to vestibular rehab to sensory integration therapy, cognitive retraining, autonomic, therapy. So, that may mean some things to some people, and it may not mean anything to a lot of people. The way that I just try to describe it, because I think people are very familiar with what happens at physical therapy,
Mhm.
is that, my therapy is really like PT, but for your brain. So, we're not rehabbing a torn meniscus, we're not, rehabbing a shoulder sprain, we're rehabbing your brain, and we're using different therapy modalities to do that.
And yours, you would explain it as holistic. Is it
Yes.
does the industry say no medication prescriptions, or is that just you in general, or is that just how the industry treats everything?
Yep. So my background is actually in chiropractic. I went to chiropractic school before I went on to get my degree in
Mhm,
functional neurology. Um, so that is my background. I don't have any jurisdiction over anybody's medications, but I work very closely with most of my patients' medical providers so that if they can change their medications, we get a lot of people off of their medications in order to do that. So I thought about going to medical school, and I am really glad that I made the decision to go to chiropractic school and move on to do functional neurology. So I
We're
could do that holistic piece.
Yeah, which is important because a lot of people don't like to get on medication,
Mhm.
and you hear that over and over again, and with good reason a lot of
Mhm.
times. We're here with Dr. Dana Brindisi, owner of Carolina Functional Neurology Center. She is at, or she's at, BNI chapter, it's RD21, Glenwood South Connection. They meet Wednesdays at noon at the Ale House on Glenwood. So you have a lot of letters by your last name, Dr. Dana. What does CFMP mean?
Certified functional medicine practitioner.
All right. What is DACNB mean?
Diplomate of the American Chiropractic Neurology Board.
Diplomate?
Diplomate.
Diplomate. Nice. That's a first. I don't think we've had any diplomates in here.
You s you
Nobody with
s
diplomas. I know that
Yeah,
have
you
come
see them
in.
commonly in
Okay.
chiropractic, and you see them in optometry as well.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Right.
Um, and then it's similar to like a fellowship.
Okay. Gotcha. You originally wanted to be a veterinarian.
I did.
All right. So how did that start? And then how did you evolve or
Yeah.
change into being a functional neurologist?
I grew up on a farm. So we had horses, chickens, ducks, and all kinds of things.
Are we going to get to 4:30 in the morning milking the cow stories? Is that what's
We didn't
next?
have cows or
Okay, all
anything
right.
like
Just
that.
waiting for that one because I hear that all
Um,
the time.
yes, and I used to get in trouble for going down to the barn when I wasn't actually allowed to be there. I got stepped on by a horse once, and I had tried
Ooh,
to hide it from my mom because I maybe could have broken my foot. Didn't, thankfully. But I just loved being
yeah.
around the horses and riding them and all kinds of stuff. So I loved animals. Um, so I think just as a little kid, I thought I loved animals, so I'm going to be a vet. As I got older, I realized that part of your job as a vet was you had to euthanize them, and
Oh,
I couldn't do it.
okay.
So I decided, I don't even know when, but when I got to college, I knew that I wanted to be in the healthcare field and that I was
Yeah.
going to work with human beings.
All right. So let's connect the dots here. So
Sure.
you started at University of Buffalo.
I did.
All right. For how long?
4 years.
Okay. Undergrad there. And then to Palmer,
Yes.
where in Florida?
Port Orange, right outside of
I
Daytona
used to live
Beach.
there.
You did?
Oh, yeah. 99 to 2009. I know exactly where you went to school.
I lived
Were
on
you, wait,
A1A.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Were you there? When were you there?
2004 to
Yeah.
2000 and no, I'm sorry, back up. 2009 to 2012.
That's right, when we left 2009, so must have heard about the incoming class or something, I'm sure
Yeah.
that these partiers, these kids, I tell
Yeah.
you, you'll wanna move. The old guy, move on out, here come these young kids. You enjoyed, life in Daytona Beach?
I loved it.
Oh, me too. We went to the North Turn.
Mhm.
Just we on Sundays, both the boys were gone. They graduated high school, so they were gone. So my wife
Yeah.
and I and some other friends of ours, we all had kids about the same age. Hey, Sunday, 2 o'clock, we just go sit on the deck and just listen to the waves, have a
Boon
drink and some nachos. Oh
Boondocks.
yeah. Oh yeah.
That was my favorite.
Oh yeah. Oh,
I
love
had
those. Yeah.
some like a fish
Yeah.
Reuben.
Did you go to Aunt Catfish's?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Right on
Because
the
I worked at,
intercoastal.
yeah,
Mhm.
I worked at the Speedway, so that's what got me down there.
Oh,
But
yeah,
love Port Orange. Anyways, that's a whole nother show. We could talk about that forever.
yeah.
But a very good school though. Very good. Very Palmer Chiropractic. Very
Yep.
good school. Now, how long were you there? Is that a 2-year program?
4 year.
Okay. And that was strictly for, we're not
Chiropractic.
even to the neurological part of everything yet.
Right.
Okay. Right. And make sure I get the verbiage right. Okay. So undergrad at Buffalo, then Palmer College of Chiropractic for 4 years.
Yes.
And then what
Yeah.
decision do you make from there once you
So
graduate?
I actually went into chiropractic school knowing that I could specialize in functional neurology.
Okay.
So I did my research and my due diligence. I took neuroscience classes in undergrad. So I really loved learning about the brain. And I knew that going into chiropractic school that I wanted to do this work. And I was actually fortunate enough to take a lot of my, neurology classes while I was in school. So the Carrick Institute is based out of Port Canaveral, and I would go to Orlando once a month for a 3-day seminar and do my training while I was in chiropractic
Okay.
school. And um, then you had to wait to sit for your board exams and do
Yeah.
all that until you graduated.
So you had to deal with I-4 going to Orlando. Oh,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
miserable. Did you see any of the shuttle launches from the beach?
think
we
I saw
did.
one.
Oh, it just
I think
shakes
I
the
saw
ground.
one.
It's awesome at
Yeah.
night.
It was at night.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Unbelievable. Oh,
Very
love
cool.
that part of it. Wait, and so you're done with, you graduate from Palmer,
Yes.
and then you go to what are we looking at? Where do you that's about what, 2013 then,
I
give or
graduated
take?
in, 2012, sat for my neurology board exam in 2013. So finished the rest of my classes
Yep.
when I was done with school, sat for my board exam in 2013. Um, and I was working in Portland, Maine at the time.
Okay.
Yep.
Right.
So I went from Florida to Maine to work, and it's kind of
Now,
all happening.
there's nobody living related to me that knows my GPA in college. Did you make yours known to anybody, or is that gonna stay a state secret, or where you graduated, stuff like that?
I don't even remember what
You
my
just got the diploma and
undergrad,
you're good.
yeah, I don't remember what my undergrad GPA was.
How many people in
Um,
your class at Palmer?
We started with 40 and I think we
Oh, wow.
graduated with 36. So it was a very
Mm,
small
okay.
class. I loved that. I went to the University of Buffalo. It was a huge
Yeah.
school. Um, and could I do it all over again? Would have went to a smaller school
Yeah.
as an undergraduate student as well, I think. I
So
really liked
of the
that.
35 other people you graduated with, you
Mhm.
still in touch with some of them?
Yes,
Oh,
a
good,
lot of
okay.
them actually.
Where is everybody?
All over the
Are they?
place. I would say probably 50% of those people were Florida natives.
Okay.
And then the other 50 were kind of all
Yeah.
over the place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Yep.
Something to draw on too, because did each of you well, I imagine many of you kinda went into different, specialties, right? Out of chiropractic school?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I got a lot of friends that do a lot of cool different things, different aspects of chiropractic.
A couple questions for you. One is, what
Sure.
does the E stand for?
Elizabeth.
Okay, because I Google everybody that's coming on the show, do some research,
Yeah.
and only once did it show Dana E. Brindisi, and I thought, okay.
Oh,
I
really?
think it was on
Huh.
your maybe been on your LinkedIn. You need a
Okay.
Facebook page because I couldn't find information on you, but
The
the
business
business
is on
does, yeah.
Facebook.
Yeah, which told me nothing about
I
me.
have a
There's no
private
gossip
Facebook
on there, so
page.
oh, thanks, I don't
So,
rate. I'll know that now.
yeah.
Okay, well, that's tougher questions next time. Professor Carrick
Yes.
was part of your life. Tell everybody who he is and why he was so important.
He's wonderful. He's the father of functional neurology. So functional neurology as a whole is a pretty um, new field. He was chiropractor and has a PhD in neuroscience. He has a degree from Harvard in research. Brilliant, brilliant man. But he basically figured out how do we utilize these sensory modalities to impact brain function. Everything we do is based on neuroscience. He's just the genius that kind of put it all together and said, we're going to take all this research. We know these things impact this area of the brain. This patient presents with this. We're going to apply this therapy and we should see a result from it. So I've had the opportunity to learn from him,
Very nice.
which is pretty cool. In the grand scheme of professions, right? Rarely do you learn from the person that
Oh, yeah.
started it. And they're based out of Cape Canaveral. So he was probably personally at least 50% of my
Oh,
classes
wow.
when I was learning. So,
Now, each week I find a shameless plug reason to get my grandson Oliver in the show because I just
yeah,
love
bring
him
him
to death.
on.
He's 9.5 months old. He's in Vancouver. He's got his own passport right now.
Woo,
He's killing me.
I
So my
like it.
son sent pictures, but anyways,
Maybe he'll take me to Japan one day.
why not? He'll be there before I will. I know that. He's got his own pair of Air Jordans, which I've never had. He's got a passport, and he's 9.5 months old. Well,
It's
I
awesome.
should talk to my mom and dad one day when I see them again. Hey, come on, I didn't get to Vancouver when I was 9.5 months old. So,
That's right.
anyways, that leads me into the question. So, people today our age, when we have something happen,
Hmm.
we go to the doctor.
Hmm.
Is there anything for kids growing up to start understanding, getting baselines, any preventative instead of rehab?
Hmm.
What preventative stuff can people do for and with their kids these days to understand things better or get ahead of something?
Yeah. Stop letting them watch the screen.
Watch what?
Watch the screens all the time.
Really? So any
Yes.
video games, computer,
Yes.
TV, all that?
Yes.
Why?
Move, exercise, get outside,
Okay.
be exposed to full spectrum sunlight, and don't use the screens as a babysitter.
What does that do?
It's like it's melting their brain. So the screens are one thing. So the screens, we all get it now because we have screens everywhere, but
Yeah, yeah.
we're overexposed to blue light. and it's toxic,
Ah,
it's excitatory for our brains.
okay.
Um, but now we're so uh
Mhm.
yes,
Well,
and
yeah.
we are just flooded with technology and screens. So as adults, most of us process it okay. But I mean, you're sticking these kids at
Yeah.
9. I mean, I don't know if Oliver, he's probably not with his passport and, being so worldly,
He's
sitting in
staring at
front
the
of a
mountains
screen,
in
but
Vancouver now,
exactly.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, they're not your brain needs movement, and that's the best thing we can give our kids is movement
Okay.
for their neurological development. And we're seeing that decline significantly. We're seeing it decline in the household. We're seeing it decline in the schools. A lot of times funding, what do they take away? PE,
Yeah,
right? Because they're like,
exactly.
oh, these kids don't need to learn how to play wiffle ball, right? But really, that wiffle ball is very helpful for their brain
Mhm.
development. Um,
And I would just like to
from
challenge people watching and listening the next time they go to a restaurant, just look around and see how many
yes,
tables there are of people on their phones. They're not even talking to each other. So I don't know what's worse. They're not talking or they're staring at their phone. But it's those things
both
and
probably.
but that's what kids that age, that's what they're growing up with,
Yes,
right? And
yes.
that's where we're headed. There's gonna be one thing that we do our life on,
Yeah.
right?
And there's a time and a place, and I get it, parents with young kids, like at some point you may just need to, hey, take this for a few minutes so that mom or dad can get done what they need to get done. And
Yeah.
I understand that.
Oh, yeah.
But if you're just using it as a catch all, like this kid's not doing anything we want him to do, he's throwing a huge temper tantrum, and your go to is always just put him on the screen.
Yeah.
I think that's where we're running into
Yeah.
some issues.
Back in the 90s
Yes.
and neurology,
Yeah.
eye hand movement
Yes.
and eye hand coordination.
Coordination.
Yeah.
They said, let them play games.
Oh, we would go growing up,
Our
our
brains haven't changed
yeah.
since the 90s. They're the same. They developed the same way.
And even before that, our parents
So
would just kick us out of the house, go play something out there, and we'd make our own games
We
up.
did the same.
Yeah, yeah,
I remember playing till 9
till
PM,
the
my mom
streetlights come on.
yelling
Yeah.
out the door because we
yeah,
were playing hide and seek
they don't
and
let you
stuff.
out today.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yes.
What order were the names? And did the dog's name always come last? My mom did.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know the order, but
okay,
she was always calling us everybody's name
yeah,
probably before she got to our actual name.
all the kids in the neighborhood. But you're right, though, that's what we did growing up.
Yeah.
And what about just reading in general out of a book? Just read,
Yeah.
let's start reading in general. What does that do for the brain in the formative years to won't I don't doubt it'll combat anything as they get older, but it would help, right?
I mean, reading and learning is
Yeah.
great, so like acquiring any new skill, right? And learning how reading, I mean, you have to really be able to track with your eyes appropriately,
Mhm.
right? You have to be able to comprehend what's happening. There's a lot of different areas of your brain that you use when you're reading. So obviously developing that
Yeah.
well at a young age is beneficial.
What about brain games for kids? I know with, elderly retired people, I know from my mom and my father-in-law does this, there's
Yeah.
Sudoku, crossword all the time, keeping their brains going.
Yeah.
What about for 6, 7, 10, 12, 14?
I
You
really
know?
would go back to movement.
Okay.
Have them move, right? Making sure they're moving appropriately. So, kids, you see a lot of kids that don't crawl appropriately. They scoot, they do,
Yeah.
different things with their legs and stuff. Those are neurological patterns that may not develop appropriately. So that is really the foundation. And not that the brain games are bad, but nowadays, where do you do those brain games? You do them on a screen,
Yeah.
So if you're going to watch a screen, cool, do something that is,
Productive.
yeah, that's helping you learn
Yeah.
instead
Not
of
play
like a
Fortnite for 28
combat
hours in a
game
row.
or
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
that most kids are playing. Um, but if you could do one thing and only one thing, movement.
What's the average age of a patient of yours these days?
I
Are they
don't even
mostly
know.
adults?
No. So
Okay.
I see a lot of kids with developmental disorders
Okay.
as well. We didn't really touch on that, but I see a lot of kids, like school age kids,
Mhm.
with reading issues, dyslexia,
Okay.
ADD, ADHD, those types of things. They do really well because their brains are already changing so rapidly at a young age. So anywhere from think my youngest right now is 7, and my oldest is in her 70s.
Okay.
So it really spans.
And I know with ADHD, of course, I think back when I was growing up, a lot of people had it. We just were called hyper
Yes.
and all that. And a lot of people now are going straight to medication.
Yeah.
When you see, so if anybody's watching, when they're listening and they have a child that has ADHD diagnosed, or what kind of, where should they go first for that to help?
So a lot of times they're talking to the primary cares
Yeah.
about it before they do anything else. And then, they may go to the psychologist or psychiatrist to get an official diagnosis of ADD or ADHD. Um, but if they're really just looking to do something holistic, I mean, I guess I have a biased
Yeah.
opinion, but I see a lot of kids that have these things, whether they're already on medication or the parents are trying to prevent them from going on medication. Like I said, their brains are so moldable at that point that they really do really well. Um, I would love to be the first person to help those kids, but a lot of times they're being put on medication unless the parents are saying no,
Yeah.
we don't want them to be on it, because obviously we're learning all the side effects to those things.
And is it once you're on it, you're on it?
No,
Okay. Yeah.
no. My goal for those kids are either to get them off their medication or get them on the lowest dose possible, so that they're functional.
Yeah. Right.
So,
Insurance, your visits covered by insurance? No?
no.
Okay, just wanna get that out.
Unfortunately not.
That's
I
okay.
wish they were.
Will it happen one day, do you think? I mean,
I hope so.
will they understand the value,
I
you
hope
think, of
so.
what you do?
I hope. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Okay.
I hope in my lifetime I see that.
Yeah.
We can reach more people that way.
Are general practitioners getting better at referring patients to people like you on the neurological side?
Some aren't.
Okay. Alright.
Yeah. Just I think right now it's very dependent on the individual provider.
Alright. You
Yeah.
guys are, and part of that is because 'cause you're that new.
Yeah.
Okay. So your goal for we're about midway through the year now. So what's your goal by the end of the year business wise?
Um,
Other you said you're gonna hire somebody here in a little bit,
yeah.
right?
I mean, help as many people as I can.
Alright.
Um, so doing things like this so more people can find us so that they know
Yeah.
that we can help them. Um, yeah, and just getting out there, networking, hopefully having a full schedule. Maybe next year I'll hire a doctor.
There you go. And they can go to carolinafnc.com.
Yes,
I think I said that right.
you did.
And they can read up more on what you do and why people should come see you.
Mhm.
Because I know a lot of people seek out the holistic approach to things instead of getting on
Yes.
medication. And
Yes.
so are there many of you in the Triangle area, or is this still kind of a small fraternity or sorority right
It's
now?
pretty small.
Okay.
There's a few of us.
Right.
And I have some patients that have seen other providers or spoke to them or whatever. Um, so we support each other.
Yeah.
So whoever you go see, great.
Good. Just get help, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And we do complimentary consultations.
Oh,
So
good. Good to know.
people can fill out a form on our website and it comes to the email and we'll get you set up and I will speak with them over
Okay.
the phone before we decide if they should come in for exam, if they're a candidate to come in for an exam, if
But
we're the
you're,
appropriate place
yeah.
for them to be,
And a lot of
basically.
times it just that'll tell you something. Once you sit down with
Yes.
them, you can understand better kind of what direction to point them in, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Your best advice to parents is kick your kids out of the house, right?
Yeah.
Or at least get them running through the house without knives, of
Yeah.
course,
Make them
but
go play in the
just go
yard.
outside and just make up
Move.
do something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I wish they would do that more too. And you're right about the PE. That kind of went unreported.
Yeah.
You don't hear about that much anymore. And that was, I mean, was one of the highlights of the days for us was
Right.
go outside and run around and
Yeah. Gotta get the wiggles out.
yeah.
Those kids, they have to do it. We gotta do it. They gotta do it.
That should be on your business card. Get the wiggles. We
the
help you
wiggles
get
out.
the wig. Yeah. So, anyways, Dr. Dana, enjoyed having you on the show. Good luck with
Thank
the
you
new
so
business. And I hope people will go to carolinafnc.com and check out Dana's work. It's wonderful stuff. You're helping, and I know a lot of people looking at the holistic stuff.
much. Mhm.
And we thank you for joining. We'll see you next week on Triangle BNI.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.